Hello there, Eagles fans, and welcome back to our Eagles Therapy podcast. My name is Basil.
And I'm Baz.
And we're kind of coming at you March 7th, 2024, with a little bit of a bonus episode, not part of our normal scheduling or anything like that. But of course, you knew we had to do an episode talking about Jason Kelce, retiring after 13 seasons. I know we're a few days late. I kind of told him, I'm like, I need to wait a little bit. I need to take some emotion out of it because I can't go into it right away. I'm gonna be crying the whole time. So I needed to take a few days. So I know everything that we're about to say, everyone's already heard, everyone knows already, but we need to do we want to do our part. We want to say our piece, right, Dad?
Oh yeah, for sure. That's why we changed the setup in the back here. We took down all the other stuff down and just put up my retired now Kelce jersey.
Yep.
Along with a nice photo here. We have him as the captain, and we got a little nameplate up there. So yeah, we took everything down right after it happened, knowing that we were going to do this type of pod. So
absolutely.
Yeah, I'm glad we finally got to it. It took a few days, but we're good.
I needed it. I needed a little bit of a break. It's too emotional. But let's go ahead and get right into it. Jason Kelce, Eagles center for 13 years, retired on March 4th. I'm going to go through a little bit of an overview of his career. Like I said, I know everyone knows it, but we have to talk about it because we love this guy just like everybody else. Kelce was drafted in the 6th round of the 2011 NFL Draft. He was undersized, underrated, and for a long time in the NFL, he was underappreciated. And he might be one of the greatest stories in NFL history. He was the first Eagles rookie center to start all 16 games. First time in franchise history a center in his rookie year started every game for the Eagles. Partially tore his MCL and ACL in his second game of his second year. And from then on, it was really all uphill. In 2013, he was the leader and anchored the best offensive line in the NFL, as LaShawn McCoy led the league in rushing yards with 1,600 yards. And this is what I mean when I say underappreciated and underrated. That year, he was rated as the best center in the league by PFF. He didn't get a Pro Bowl. He didn't get an All-Pro. I remember there were several years where they would be talking about, best centers in the league, Alex Mack, Travis Frederick, these guys. And I was always like, what? Where are we talking? Why are we talking about Jason Kelce?
Yeah, what's the criteria?
What are we doing here?
Yeah.
I know I don't watch every game, but I don't know what I'm missing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, that year McCoy had a bunch of TDs too.
Yeah, it's 2013, 2014. He also had 12, 13, even more. He had 17 one year, I think.
Right.
In 2014, he made his first Pro Bowl despite only playing in 12 games. In 2015, he was rated as the 7th best center in the NFL. In 2016, he had one of his worst years, as you heard him talk about in his speech. He was, however, selected to the Pro Bowl that year. I've heard a lot of people talk about he hates that he has that Pro Bowl. People will talk about it, and he's like, "Nah, I can't stand it." Because in that year, he had a really hard season. He was beat a lot, and you remember, a lot of people were looking to trade him.
Yeah, well, he said he had a lot of holding calls, and he just let his team down. And It's so funny, though. So many of these players would never, ever admit to that. But he just seems like the guy that lives next door to you, right? That you're going to borrow a lawnmower from, you know?
True.
And hey, I'll help you cut the trim the hedges too.
Yeah. In that offseason, he devoted himself to bettering his basics, bettering his hand and footwork, and it paid off. In 2017, he got his first team All-Pro, and he was the highest rated center in the league, winning the PFF blocking award. And later, he won the Philadelphia Eagles' first ever Super Bowl.
Awesome.
After that, he gained national attention with his speech at the Eagles Super Bowl parade. Aside from that, though, after the Super Bowl, he gave one of the greatest and most emotional interviews I've ever seen about his journey to the NFL and where he got to. I know everyone has seen the parade speech, but if you haven't seen the post-game Super Bowl interview, please go and watch it, and it'll show you a lot about who he is and what he'd been through. From 2018 to 2019, he was a Pro Bowler and All-Pro each year. In 2020, the Eagles had the most offensive line injuries and the most offensive line combinations in franchise history, and he's the only guy to start every single game.
Wow.
From 2021 to 2023, Kelce continued his dominance with 3 straight Pro Bowls and another 3 straight first-team All-Pros, and along the way went to another Super Bowl. We don't have to get into too much about that, though. In Week 6 of last year, Kelce became the franchise record holder for most starts, and he finished his career with 179 straight career starts with the Eagles. He retired as one of, if not the greatest center in NFL history, and he also gave the greatest retirement speech in sports history. All in all, he finished with 7 Pro Bowls, 6 first-team All-Pros, a #1 sports podcast, just edging us out a bit, and a first-ballot Hall of Famer for sure. Will be in Canton in 2029. Dad, what do you got?
Well, I think it's great to talk about him and everything. I did a little research on some of the other Hall of Fame centers, and the one thing you'll see when I go through it real quick is the size.
Yeah,
size and weight. So you got Big Chuck Bednarik. We know him. He was 6'3", 233. He got it in. He's a Hall of Famer as well. So 1967 was the year he got in. Dermody Dawson, he was a great center. He played for many, many years. He had 6 first-team All-Pros as well. He's 6'2", 292, 2012 Hall of Famer. Then you have an old-timer, played in 1931 to 1945, Mel Hine, 8-time All-Pro. Of course, that was when there were 7 teams or whatever, but It doesn't matter. He had 7 NFL championships in 15 years, which was awesome. 6'2", 225. So it just shows you the difference on the players back in those days as now. Of course, we had Kevin I can never say his name. Mawai, I think it is. He played from 94 to 2009. Now he gets to where it's kind of the centers of today's day. He's 6'2", 292. He played for 3 different teams though, but he did get 7 first-team All-Pros, and he is in the Hall of Fame 2019 class.
Wow.
I'm just not sure how to say his name. It's like Mawai or Mayway or whatever, but he is also 2000s All-Decade player. Jim Otto, of course, most of the old-timers around will know you're talking about. He played for the Raiders for many, many years, from 60 to 74. He was a 9-time All-Star in the AFL, so that's a little different than Pro Bowls.
Yeah.
He was a first-year Hall of Famer in 1980, so he's in there. He was 6'2", 255, so again, wow. not that big, but still in the 70s we're talking. You got Jeff Saturday, of course, who Kelce did his
prototype.
Based his game off of him. Played from 99 to 2011. Two-time first-team All-Pro. Super Bowl 49 champion. I should throw that in there. 6-time Pro Bowler. 6'2", 295, which is exactly the same size as we have Kelce. Although I have 6'3" here, 295. So maybe he was a little bit an inch taller. Dwight Stevenson, great Miami Dolphin, 6'2", 255 from 1980 to 1987. Kind of a short career. Still got in the Hall of Fame, 1998. He had 4 first-team All-Pros. Mike Webster, of course, the great Pittsburgh center for 4 Super Bowls. Played in 150 consecutive games, and he actually he left Pittsburgh in 89, played with them for 2 years, but by then he'd already had a lot of head injuries, and it was just a sad story on him. 6'1", 255. Again, that was in 1974 to 1988, so he played a long time, actually till 90 with the he went to KC there at the end. So, but anyway, so it just goes to show you that about 6'2", 295 is what your centers want to be. So now, what size we got Cam at?
So Cam Jurgens is listed at 6'3", 303 pounds, so a little bit over that.
8 pounds.
Might have been beefing up for a guard spot, so that's okay.
That's true too, but that was the biggest thing about, of course, Kelce's game was his speed and his quickness and his ability to pull. And I'll tell you what, man, it was just so exciting to watch him when he would get out in front of the running back. And you can watch so many highlights of him just pulling. And, of course,
it was just
they made a big deal about it on the broadcast, if you were able to listen to that when you're watching the games, how much they talked about his speed. But when he was younger, it was funny to watch him because they didn't really do that as much back in those days. You didn't see the center pull and get out, 10 or 15 yards in front of a running back and just second level. He was just amazing.
It was more fun to watch him as a puller than it was to watch the running back. I mean,
I agree.
I know that sounds dumb, but it's true. And I know I'm an offensive line guy, so I like to watch the offensive line. But when he got out in space, it was more fun to watch what he was going to do than it was to watch what Shady was going to do.
Right.
Or Sproles or Blunt or, Ajayi, all these guys that we had over the years. It was just so much fun to fixate on him, and he's going to hit 3 guys, 2 at least, and one of them is going to be on the ground.
Pancake.
You know what I mean? It was just so much fun to watch him
for sure
pull out when they did the screen pass,
right?
Or even a quarterback draw to the right. He was just so much fun to watch. You just saw him hunting. It was ready. It was just incredible.
Yeah, it's neat to watch. It was just also fun to watch the running back play off the block. There's several times we went, that guy he went the wrong way. Kelce made the block, but the running back went the wrong way. Come on, man. Follow that block and play off of that block.
It's true.
That's where McCoy was so amazing. He was just one of the best at that.
But he knew how to follow his blockers.
Definitely.
He knew how to follow Kelce more than anyone. So we just want to say before we move on to our next thing, which we're really, going to focus on. Thank you, Jason Kelce, for everything. I know he's probably never going to see this, but if you do,
hey,
thank you so much
for
all you did for 13 years.
Yeah.
I was talking about it. I'm 25 years old. I've been almost 26, but I've been watching football probably 12, 13 years, which if you think about it, he's been in the league for 13 years.
Right.
I've never adamantly watched an Eagles season without him in it.
Right.
I remember watching games from certain seasons when I was a kid, but I was a kid. I
remember when we drafted him. We had a few centers back then.
Jamal.
Yeah,
and
he was really
he was actually pretty good.
And,
yeah. Jamal Jackson. I'm sorry.
Jackson. And then we had I forget who filled in for him the year before we got him, but these were big guys. They weren't
back in the early thousands. We had Hank Fraley, who was really good.
He was a good center too.
I think he's the.
But again,
you
never saw them pulled like when we got him, and you started to see what he could do. It was just amazing to watch him get out there, and and like you say, that's what Jeff Saturday did as well. So it was interesting to see him do that and kind of. But then the good thing about Juergens now, what are we going to do down the road? What's going to happen next year? Juergens was handpicked by Kelce.
Yeah.
In the draft, you ever saw that one draft that was a couple of years ago, and they big highlight about how excited he was because he knew he had some input on that pick.
Yeah.
And that's what you got to do. You got to draft those linemen. Maybe 2 years before the guy's going to get out of the league. And he played a great guard, Juergens, this year. So he's learned. He's got his there. Played. So let's see if he'll be able to make that transition.
Let's talk about the future going forward now. A lot of people are kind of talking about what we're going to do. It's funny watching major sports talk shows and stuff like that. And sometimes they don't know about certain teams what the fan knows. It's just how it is. They cover everybody, so it's hard. Speak and Colin.
Right.
They cover a lot of things, so they're not always just talking about the Eagles, of course.
But an offensive line too. That's not something that
It's just funny because when I was watching, they were talking about like, oh yeah, they should sign a veteran center and because they don't get a young guy and I'm just kind of like, oh, they must not know. We drafted 2 centers in the last 3 years to possibly replace this guy.
Yes.
And it's just kind of funny that they're not aware of that. But yeah, let's talk about. People are talking about a lot of different options we have. So number one, the most likely and the one that we're mostly hoping for is for Cam Juergens. I think it's important to note, guys, Cam Juergens, he'll be going into his 3rd year. His first year, he didn't play at all. Rarely.
Right.
Second year, he got to start at guard. He missed 4 games, I believe. He didn't have a great season. He didn't have a spectacular season, but he had a pretty darn good season for a guy in his first year full-time starter.
Right.
He started the 12 or 13 games, and then he let up 22 pressures. He didn't let up any sacks, which is awesome.
Right.
He didn't have any penalties. I don't know about false start, but he had no holding penalties, which is great. So, he's already kind of on his way there, and he got to play next to the guy that he's most compared to and the guy that picked him in the draft. So
I do remember early on in the season, we were running the ball great.
Yeah.
And then he got nicked up, wasn't going to play, and we were like, oh no,
And then when we were missing him, Sua Opeta came in, who I think is a good player as well. But we couldn't run as much without Cam. We really couldn't.
That first the first of the 2 games he was out. Yeah, we weren't running like we were the previous couple weeks. And so that was kind of a concern, but also something you go, well, hey man, he's the guy.
Yeah.
And then when he came back, we were hoping that we'd get back to running the ball like we were earlier.
But for some reason our offensive coordinator didn't want to run the ball.
Yeah, we didn't.
So Cam Juergens is the number one option that we all are hoping for. Like you said, he's picked by Kelce, and he compares him to himself the most. So I think that's a good thing to see, and I think we just need to be patient. I hope going into this, no one's going to expect right away that we have an all-pro center. It's going to take some time. It's okay. We'll see what happens. It's going to be all right. Second option we have, and some people are thinking about, is Landon Dickerson. Landon Dickerson played at Alabama for 4 years, maybe 3, I'm sorry. I believe 4 years, and he was a starting center for really all of it. So what are your thoughts there?
Well, I know we got him because wasn't he nicked up or something when we drafted him?
The fear was he would be hurt a lot. The fear was in college.
He had an ACL.
In college, he'd gotten hurt quite a few times.
But then that first year, he played pretty well for us.
So he came in to replace Brandon Brooks his rookie year. I don't remember how many games he played, but he did well. He did really well.
Well, you didn't hear his name called that often,
that's
so
the
that's
good
what
thing.
counts.
Exactly. That's the really
good thing. But I do
thing.
know that we were pretty happy with the pick at the time, And we've, heard some national talk about it as well. So that's always a good thing.
And I'm sorry, he played at Florida State before he played at Alabama. But still,
okay.
He was mostly a starter his entire career as a
center.
He did play as a guard a bit, but then he moved to center, and his truest position is center. So, but here's the problem with me. So, we just talked about all those Hall of Famers, all those Hall of Fame centers.
Right.
And they're all incredibly small and undersized.
Right. No, it's true.
Including Jason Kelce. Landon Dickerson, he's 6'6", he's 333 pounds. Now, he's a freak athlete. He's very strong. He's pretty quick off the line. I wouldn't call him fast, though. I don't think he has the same pulling ability that Kelce or Juergens would have.
Right.
So that's my fear with him going forward. But a lot of people are thinking about, he was a center. He knows what he's doing. But the other thing about him, he's a two-time Pro Bowler. 3 seasons in the league.
Man.
Three seasons, 2 Pro Bowls. That's pretty awesome.
That's pretty awesome.
Didn't get his Pro Bowl his rookie year because he wasn't starting the whole time.
Right.
After that, he's been a Pro Bowl twice. So for me, it's like him and you don't take away from a position that's got an A+.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right. Plus the size. I mean, 6'6", like you said.
That's huge.
It's probably too big for a center.
On the left side, you got him and Mailata. They're gonna be fine. You know what I mean? Him and Mailata, they're best friends. They're buddies. They're great together. I wouldn't want to break that up and mess with it. That's why I don't like the idea of the Landon Dickerson.
An option in case somebody gets injured.
I think it's a great thing that we have him.
Right.
In sense of, if after 6 games Cam Juergens has snapped the ball over Hurts' head 3 times, and he's let up 12 sacks, then sure, we'll talk about that.
Yeah.
But for now, I just don't think it's a good idea.
Right.
I wouldn't want to weaken 2 positions.
No, I think it's a great idea.
Yeah.
Plus, like I say, the size thing is kind of
a big deal.
Yeah.
I don't think he can run the same.
Yeah.
I don't want to. I mean, he'd probably be really good at knocking guys over, but we need speed going out there. And then the other thing people are thinking about is that we're going to be drafting an offensive lineman or a center in the first few rounds. I can't imagine that's true. Now, in the first 3 rounds, we will walk away with at least an offensive lineman, most likely a swing tackle or a guard to replace Cam at right guard.
Right.
If Steen can't do it, it's competition. You got to have it.
Well, we always say every year you have to draft a lineman.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if it's a guard or a tackle.
Oh, yeah.
But you definitely need to.
If you have this year, we have 7 picks. You need to draft at least 2 offensive linemen, 1 interior, 1 outside.
Yeah.
Like you have to. It's just, to me, it's part of the rule. It's part of the NFL Bible.
It is. No, I agree. It's great.
It's part of the rules.
It's something you have to do. I mean, it's just this teams that build, as we always hear, they build from the line, the defensive line, offensive line. That's kind of what we've been talked about for many years now, and you just got to continue that. You got to keep doing that.
Absolutely. So I'm hoping for Juergens. Is that what you're looking for?
No, for sure.
It's got to happen. It's got to happen.
Yeah.
He's got to change. I really like if he could change his number. I don't like 51.
Same.
It's not a good
offensive
linebacker
number. Yeah, it's me.
It's it is. It's
That's what
it's funny though. It's 51 just not a good number. Like it's not a good.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I know people are going to make fun of us because they don't care about numbers. I do.
Right. Yeah, I know you do. You're
62 is a great number.
Right.
55, great number.
Yeah.
72.
Yeah.
65 is okay.
Yeah.
77 is the best number. That's my number.
Yes.
But there's a lot of numbers that are like
53 was always my favorite.
53 is okay. 54 I'm a big fan of. 54 is a great number.
Yeah.
34. There's numbers that are just that's a really good number.
Yeah.
And 51 is it's just not a good number.
Yeah.
And that was like earlier in his career. Sayamalu, didn't he end his career as number 56?
Yeah,
or not end his career, of course, but
right.
He was 56 his last few years. He started out as 73, and it was like that's a great number. Why would you move to 56?
Why'd you do that?
Yeah. 56, that's a terrible number. 73,
yeah,
that's a great number.
Well,
especially for a big
lineman. Exactly, that's
big dude.
They should be in the 60s and the 70s. That's just
how
it should be. I think
there's even some numbers in 60. 63. That better be a center. It's funny.
Yeah,
I have numbers.
You're right, though. No,
there are certain numbers. It's got to be that number.
68's a good number too.
That's good
for a big lineman.
Mailata,
big lineman.
Yeah. Mailata
was 68. About it.
Evan Mathis was 69. He was good in that number.
Yeah, that was a good number.
Landon Dickerson 69. He's good in that number. Like
yes,
it's funny. There's certain numbers. I'm like that's a great number, and then there's some 78. That's a great number.
Yeah. I'm with you.
I know.
I know.
I'm weird, but
no, you're not. I mean, you know, that's where college football. I look at it. I'm like this. There's 2 number 1s on the team, and
I can't stand it.
What are they doing? Number 11. You're not a quarterback.
The worst thing they did.
I don't understand it.
The worst thing the NFL has done in the last 3 or 4 years is change the numbering system.
It's weird.
Where you can be any number you want on defense. It's disgusting.
Yeah.
I hate seeing.
Well, it's the only sport, in my opinion, that you really a number counts too. I know people baseball. They'll say, "Oh, number 6." I don't
care.
It's not my Mike Schmidt 32. Okay. But, other than that, maybe Steve Carlton, but made the Hall of Fame type player. But I've never been a number guy. But in football, that's just something that you see and you can't help it.
Do you know Bryce Harper's number?
No.
Do you even know it? No.
No.
Okay, he's number 3. That's okay.
I would not know that.
What was Allen Iverson's number?
I don't know.
He's number 3.
I know McNabb's number.
5.
I know Deshaun Jackson number.
10.
Okay, so that's all I need to know.
Whatever. Speaking of numbers, though, is Kelce's number going to be retired? 62.
I know how you feel about retiring numbers. I think you do.
It has to.
And if it's not retired, it's not used. It's not given out again.
I'm with you.
I mean, you don't retire maybe in 10 years or something. Maybe after he goes in the Hall in 5 years or so, then you consider it. But we'll do another pod on the retired numbers in the Eagles' history. But
it's funny.
There's numbers that when they retire, then like you can't retire everybody's number.
Yeah, it's funny.
Although number 9 should probably be retired.
Yeah,
but
we've talked about it before, and I understand the retiring of numbers. It has to happen. Chuck Bednarik.
Yes.
Jason Kelce, Brian Dawkins.
Right.
Of course, these numbers need to be retired, but at some point, I'm like, maybe how about we retire it for 10 years,
right?
And you keep the banner up there, but then we'll take the jersey, but the banner stays.
Yeah, we know he's not on the field.
We get
now.
it.
We know the new guy out there.
There needs to be. I just don't like the idea of how many numbers are we going to retire? Because then at some point we're going to have all these numbers retired. We have a ton. We have 8, 9? We have 9 numbers retired.
And I bet you that is low considering some of the other big, long time,
probably
Super Bowl teams.
Probably, but it's just like, man, 9 numbers retired. That we're about to have 10, and then we have to start talking about Fletcher Cox,
right?
Lane Johnson, Brandon Graham.
Yeah.
That's 4 more numbers.
Zach Ertz.
No. I don't think.
See,
the thing that hurts me with numbers is you left.
Yeah,
I can't.
But not on your own recognizance.
I understand that, but
we got rid of you.
Yeah, no, I understand that. Speaking of Zach Ertz, we'll take a little side step. In Kelce's retirement speech, he mentioned Zach Ertz.
Right.
How he missed that block one time in the city. Or no, he shied away from a block, and the city kind of ripped him apart. Back in 2014, 15.
I remember when he said that.
And it's just kind of funny. It made me think it's just funny because he said, now, in Philadelphia, everyone hated him or ripped him apart that year, and none of them will say a bad word about him ever. And I thought it was funny because I agree I wouldn't, but it's funny because then 2 days later he signed with Washington.
Right.
He just signed with Washington, and you're kind of like, come on.
Yeah.
Jason just vouched for you.
Yeah.
What are you doing?
But I do think, like you say,
I can't
retiring with their team. I mean, that's so hard in this NFL nowadays. It doesn't happen.
Yeah, I know. It's
that
hard.
often,
it's very hard.
But
I can't retire 86 because now what about number 17?
Right.
Yeah. Alshon, Harold Carmichael.
Yeah.
What do we got to retire 13 because of Nelson Aguilar? Is 10 being retired because of Deshaun and Mac Hollins? No, I'm just kidding.
Deshaun's, I don't know. He should have been in the 80s anyway, but that's a different story.
I'm with you. It's just hard because some of these guys that their numbers are retired.
Yeah, it should be really, really, Mount Rushmore type stuff.
Which we're going to get into right now, actually. So this is next topic. Dad, a lot of people have been talking about Mount Rushmore. A lot of big writers have been writing theirs, or fans on Twitter have been writing theirs and stuff like that. The Mount Rushmore of Philadelphia Eagles. And Jason Kelce's on it, right?
He's for sure.
Absolutely.
I agree. Yes, for sure.
So off the bat, I didn't prepare you for this.
No.
Give me your Mount Rushmore. And maybe
that's really hard.
We can do some honorable mentions because it's going to be hard, so we'll talk about it. But give me your Mount Rushmore.
You want Foles up there, right? But
that's the hard thing.
I know. 3 games, 5 games, 8, 10 games.
Because I saw,
drafted by us, so that's a start.
Yes.
That's a nice thing.
Pro Bowl with us, Pro Bowl MVP with us, which is, I know it's not.
Super Bowl MVP with us.
That's my next thing.
I know. That's, but it wasn't longevity.
No, not at all.
So, I mean, my brother had sent me something about one, and I forget who was on. Well, Doc was on it. He had Reggie White on there. And I know a lot of fans don't.
Here's where we go.
But I feel like you did. He did leave the team, and my brother, like he said, he sent it to me, and I kind of commented on it and said, he left us, but the worst part was sure sacks and all that, but one playoff win in 8 years, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, it's great that we got him. It was fantastic. Got the team a national recognizance, whatever you want to call it. We became a national team. You knew who we were, but we just didn't. win. You got to win. I really think you got to win to get there. Now, we didn't win a Super Bowl with Dawkins either, but,
longevity.
He did leave, but again, we thought he was done, and then he went to Denver for a couple of years and played pretty well that first year. But, I don't know. I'm not you take it away.
So I have mine here, but we're going to have some discussion because I only have 3 set. And now let me call out Reuben Frank, who's, one of the head writers at NBC Sports Philadelphia. He did his Mount Rushmore, and his was Bednarik, Kelce, Dawkins, and Reggie. And it was funny because we were listening to their podcast, and he was talking about his, ranking or his Mount Rushmore, and he's like, well, yeah, Bednarik, he can't.
Yeah.
Because he was talking about with Kelce being on, who comes off. He said, Bednarik, you can't take off.
Right.
And I'm
I agree.
Okay, sure.
Yeah.
Then he said, Reggie, you can't take off. And I'm like, oh, all right, take it. Let's back up a little bit. What do you mean can't take off?
Right.
Why can't you take him off?
Bednarik, 2 championships.
Yeah.
And, even though they're the ones that no one ever knows about and all that stuff, it doesn't matter. It's 2 championships.
Yeah.
2 rings.
And that's the thing for me that makes it hard for me with Reggie White is not only did he leave, he left on his own terms. Like, it wasn't like we traded him, right?
No. It was free agency became a thing in the early 90s.
He left. And he succeeded more without us. I'm just saying, he won a Super Bowl. Now, I know his numbers may not have been as great with that, but I know
pretty good.
I know for a fact he won, I think, 2 Defensive Player of the Year awards after leaving us.
Right.
So I don't know.
Yeah.
Or maybe not 2 without us. 1 without us. I'm sorry.
Okay.
In his second to last year. But with Green, he was with us from 85 to 92. What's that?
Right. That's 8 years.
That's 8 seasons. And then he was with Green Bay from 83 to 98.
93
to 98.
That's 6 years.
Yes. And then in 2000, and then he was
Carolina.
in Carolina. So
right.
He only had 8 seasons with us. He had 7 elsewhere. Like, it makes it sound like, he played with us for 15 years and 3 with everyone else. No.
But it's funny.
Like,
I know when I've talked to people about this before, the reason we didn't keep him was a 5-year, $15 million contract.
Yeah.
And I remember at the time, Norman Brayman, I don't even know if he's still alive, but he destroyed our team as many times as he tried. Anyway, 5 years, $15 million. That's $3 million a year.
That's nothing now. Yeah, that's go ahead.
But
it's the most underpaid defensive end in history.
Ridiculous that we didn't re-sign him, at least for a couple years back then. Yeah. But, and so he kind of got a slap in the face. It wasn't like, he left because of that, but free agency gave these guys some big money.
Yeah.
He got to go to the Pack. They went in 1 Super Bowl.
It's just I can't. I don't know. For me, it's always been one of those things.
So who's your 4 then?
That's the thing. So I have 3 set.
You got Chuck,
Dawkins, Kelce, Bednarik.
Okay.
Now the ones up for debate after that for the spot would be guys like Foles. I know, like you said, you can't.
Right.
You can't give it to him, but how can you not?
He's got a statue outside the place.
Shady. Now I know I'm younger, so I'm going to have a different outlook on it. Shady, and and then Donovan McNabb.
Yeah.
I mean, the greatest quarterback in Eagles history.
That's true. What, 5 NFC Championship games?
NFC Championship games, yeah.
When you go back to then say how many years did he play for us? 10, I think.
Okay, yeah.
Maybe more. I'm not sure. 99 to 2009.
8, right?
So 99 to 2009.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Maybe 2008. So it's either
10 or 11 years.
10 or 11 years.
Yeah. And he went to 5 NFC Championship games.
And, the ball breaks a few more times. You never know. A couple of Super Bowls, whatever. But
it's hard.
It was. I think you kind of have to put him up there because when we talk about playoff wins, that's where Doc gets his thing.
Yeah.
He went to many, many playoff games.
And he was the leader of a defense.
And he was amazing.
But who was the leader of the offense?
Yeah. No,
Just saying.
I agree.
It's hard. I know, and I know a lot of people in Philly don't really like McNabb anymore, so I know it's kind of rough, but it's hard. There's just, I don't have it solidified. But I just wanted to hear your talk on it, your opinion on it.
Next time, give me a little hint.
Yeah.
No, I knew you might because like you said, that came out and I texted my brother back and said I'd probably take Reggie off and put on Fletcher Cox, but
see that's the other thing. Now we have to talk about Brandon Graham. Most games in Eagles history.
Yes.
And he
and not just that, just the attitude.
He iced us the Super Bowl.
The fun. Yes. So, I mean, he's definitely got that.
Yeah,
and he's playoff victories, Super Bowl, been to 2, And that guy's coming back next year, and hopefully he gets 15 sacks and leads the league again. That would be awesome.
That would be a great story, wouldn't it?
But the kind of player
Fletcher
that
Cox,
loves to play in Philly, that's the thing that you wanted. Like Kelce, when he talked about that. I mean, if you watched that retirement speech and didn't at least feel some pride blowing up inside your chest. I mean,
absolutely.
That was incredible. I don't even live in Philly anymore, but I felt it,
I know.
It was great. And to hear him talk about the fans, because we've taken such a big rap, but there's no other fan like an Eagle fan.
I think the other thing about Kelce, and to touch on what you're saying, is I don't think any athlete has ever understood the fans of Philadelphia more than him.
Right.
We've heard a lot of complaining. I don't know if you saw Steven Nelson on his podcast was talking about, I couldn't play in Philly, and right away I knew it wasn't for me, and that's fine. I mean, that's fine. I get it, but good luck.
Yeah,
good luck in life if you can't handle this. I don't know. What are you going to handle?
Can't handle the heat. Get out of the kitchen.
Yeah, exactly. And Kelce, he understood us more than anyone.
Definitely.
All right, let's say our goodbyes.
You got it.
If you like our Eagles Therapy podcast, you can do us a favor, rate and subscribe wherever you get your podcast. If you follow us on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter, you can comment below or subscribe on YouTube, please. We'd like to hear your comments. Who's your Eagles Mount Rushmore? How much are you going to miss Kelce? We already know it's a lot, but tell us and let us know what you think the future holds for him and for the Eagles. But other than that, from all of us here at our Eagles Therapy podcast, I'm Basil.
And I'm Baz.
Go Birds.
Fly, Eagles, fly.